Driving up the coast this morning, you look at all the landscape around you, and what I thought were trees and forests before don't even compare to what used to be here. That's why I brought my brother to Merv's this morning, is to see actually what the trees and the forest used to look like.
Michael Holland is also here looking for answers. He's one of a group of eco-forestry students studying alternate approaches to forestry. Merv's about to help him out with his first attempt at selective logging.
You know the tree's going to go that way, it's not coming this way. So that rules this out. Then you look over there to see where you can put it down with a minimum of damage. And the minimum of damage here is right straight out that way. The cedar butts are always a little funny, eh? Now, see, when I put that axe in, give it a reading, I've got it right where he wants it to go. Take it to 45. See what happened when I did the first cut in 45?
Oh, I see.
See?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It's got its head up above the canopy.
The tree rings help tell the story of this forest. In a year when Merv was logging, the trees that were left standing grew better and faster.
Notice how uniform they... Now this is what the German foresters look at that and I say, look at the uniformity of those years of growth, eh?
Mm-hmm. That was basically your first cut.
No, that's the first cut, 1945. Yes.
Some of these students will go on to become selective loggers. What they learn here will make them better foresters, but there's more to it than that. Merv's enthusiasm helps them believe, strengthens their convictions that sustainable forestry works. His enthusiasm, literally, grew up in a forest. In 1917, when Merv was 4 years old, his parents moved to a rural area on Vancouver Island called Yellow Point, and he grew up playing in the forest he would one day own.
Well, I grew up on right on the edge of the forest, and it was wild land, and there were cougar, and there were bear, and there were all these sort of things around you. So you grew up with an attitude towards people and things that these are my friends. Both natural and human. These are my friends, and there's nothing there that I need to be afraid of.
Merv's parents were middle-class working people, and they raised their son to believe in hard work and fair play, strong values that would shape his life. His first experience with logging was helping his dad on a small sawmill in the 1920s. Later, as a young man, he worked as a tree faller for a local contractor.
They logged by what is called high grading, but the best of clear cutting is 10 times worse than the worst of high grading. The forest had a chance to regenerate. They were small operators. They weren't greedy. They didn't want to take all the money out of the forest at once. I worked for one of these men, Mr. Crane, for quite a number of years as a faller. And his philosophy, even though he would have snorted if you'd said he was a selection logger or something like this, he just said, hell, I just cut trees. But what I saw that these fellows do in their own way with very limited knowledge, book knowledge, but with a lot of common sense and intelligence, which is lacking today, they did a creditable job of extracting timber and leaving a forest behind them.
When he bought Wildwood in 1938, Merv's plan was to clear the land for farming. But at the University of BC, while he was studying agriculture, he met a man who altered the future for Merv and his forest. Professor Paul Boving was from Sweden, and he had some then radical ideas about alternative forestry.
When he found out what I had, he said, good Lord, he said, you've got to take forestry. He said, that's what you need. Not the kind of forestry you can get on North America and shores, So he said, look, he said, I've just received a copy of the latest forestry course at Gothenburg in Sweden. If you are interested, and he said, I think you might be, he said, I can translate that course. So he told me what it was going to cost me, and I said, you've just got another pupil. He said, great.
When Merv returned to Wildwood, he was convinced he could make a profit logging selectively. He's made about a third of his total income from it ever since, carrying on the legacy of his Swedish professor.
What surprised me most the first time I came out here was how Merv seemed to know every single tree, every rock, every bush on this piece of land, practically by name. And then he sees an amazing connection between it all. The birds to the insects to all the mosses, and unlike any other forester I've ever known or spoken to, he sees it on a very long term. Merv embodies the kind of healing and peace that a forest can give you.
And all ready to take its place.
Yep, little guy. See, we have a perfect age succession here in the circle.
There's several of them here.